Welcome to the first episode of our new podcast, I'm Still Here, where we talk about making art after kids. So I'm Kate Tellers. I am a writer, a host, a storyteller on staff at the Moth. I'm also a parent. I have 2 children. By the time you hear this, my son Fritz will be almost 4, and my daughter Iris will be 1.
Hi, co-host here. My name is Mary Adkins, and I am a writer. My first novel, When You Read This, is coming out next month, February 5th. You can find it wherever books are sold. By the time you hear this, my one son, whose name is Finn, will be 9 months old.
So we decided to start this podcast because last summer, you were newest to parenthood. We've known each other for over a decade through many creative endeavors.
Right.
We started to talk about all of the things, the sort of relationship between making art and being a parent, like a lot of the challenges that we had, a lot of the things that we didn't expect. But also there was this weird thing where there were a lot of surprising compatibilities, like how these two things could complement each other. And then we started talking to other parents, and we found that they had very interesting, sometimes similar, sometimes obviously different experiences. And so we decided to gather some of the people that we really love and admire to talk to them and have these conversations.
And this season, we have some really exciting interviews to share with you. All of our guests are part of our community here in New York. They're friends with one or both of us. We talk with a filmmaker, a writer, an aerialist, a sculptor, and our friends in comedy. We talk with people whose kids range from 6 months old to 20-something, and we hear about what it means to be both parents and artists. So we're tackling questions like, how do you make things after you've made people? How is what you make different? How has your world changed as a parent artist?
And to launch this season, we thought we'd start by interviewing each other. Mary, I want to know about your creative stuff, particularly Mary as a parent of children.
A child. Finn is 6 months and 2 weeks old.
So you are a parent of a 6-month-old baby, and you are also a writer.
And I'm also a writer. I have a novel coming out in February, my first novel called When You Read This. And I'm working right now on my second novel.
Right, which has a crazy timeline because
it sold the night that I had Finn. So I was in the hospital, in my hospital bed, and I got an email from my agent that the novel had sold.
So you are really making art after kids, like in the weeds,
right.
Fully.
Like really making it while the baby is like brand new.
Yeah, is like making its brain.
Yeah.
So what is what's a day in your life like with balancing that and the realities of the rest of the world?
Okay, so like most parents, I feel like there's no typical day, so I'm just going to tell you my yesterday.
Bring it.
Okay, yesterday, like most days, Finn woke up around 6:30.
Okay.
This is not to say he sleeps until 6:30. He often gets up in the middle of the night still at least once, but he wakes up for the day at 6:30.
And do you always get up with him in the middle of the night?
I'm not nursing anymore. I was for a while, but now I'm not. So anyone can give him a bottle in the night if he requires one. So we'll take turns. Yeah.
And do you have like it's your turn now, my turn, or is it like, do you make a game time decision?
It's kind of game time decision, but I think there's this underlying sense of equality that we both have.
Yeah.
Like if I've done it for a few nights in a row, I'm just not going to get up. And Lucas is going to get up. Like we both sort of do it like that, you know?
His ass must get out of bed.
Yeah. And like almost always this works pretty well.
Yeah.
It didn't at first. Like we had to get into our groove for sure. There was a lot of resentment and negotiating at first. But now that we're 6 months in, I think we have found our balanced place.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you get up at 6:30.
So at 6:30 we get up. We all get up.
All three of you? Okay.
Yeah. Every now and then, if one of us is super wiped out, like if Lucas has like stayed up really late working or something, or vice versa, we'll let the other one sleep in. But usually just we're all awake because the baby's awake, and we'll take a family stroll to Starbucks. This is like our new ritual, which has been really nice because it's super early. It's an expensive habit, but it's just like pleasant. It's a fun way to start the day. It's like a 10-minute stroll over there and a 10-minute stroll back. So we end up, like a 20-minute little family walk. And then Finn, until about he has about 2 hours after he wakes up where he is just super chill. I mean, he'll just sit in we call it the juvie. I don't know what it's called. It's like the juvie is the brand or the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like he sits in the little seat and you can walk around in it and it has this huge tray.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a version of that, but yeah.
Yeah. So he'll sit in that and just play with like little toys on the tray for like 2 hours. So this is like the golden period where we both are able to get work done.
Yeah. So what is Lucas doing?
So Lucas, my husband, is in school. He is in biochem right now, which is his last prerequisite before he applies to genetic counseling master's programs. He's a musician, but he's changing careers. So he is working on that. Like he's writing up a lab or something, or like studying chemistry. And I am working on my novel. Then he starts to get kind of fussy when he's ready for a nap.
Yeah.
He's only napping right now if he's strolled. And so Lucas will take him on a stroll. And this is when I am like, I can actually focus for a little bit, like really focus. And they're usually gone about an hour. And so I'm just writing during that time. I'll occasionally also do a facial peel.
Cool.
Okay. Then they get back and by the way, I might also go to the gym during that time because I only go to the gym for like 15 minutes. It's like a very quick. And my gym is on my block. It's Lucille Roberts. You used to be a member there. It's so fun going to a women only gym. Like I did it because it's close to me and it's cheap. This is not on topic, but I am now a big fan of women only gyms.
Okay.
So I may do that for a few minutes, come back, I'm writing. They come back. Finn may still be snoozing for a bit. When he wakes up, I will give him a bot. Like now it's my turn for a little bit. And then depending on, yesterday, I was like, I have more writing to do. Like I need to get more done. So I'm going to go do that. So it's there's a lot of mental energy and time that goes into just checking in. Like, what do you have today? Like, what do you need to be prioritizing? When do you want to be doing it? And then scheduling our day around that. And I think it's also, I'm literally just thinking aloud here. I think it's made us better at communicating as a couple to have a kid under these circumstances where we both have these sort of amorphous goals and really untraditional schedules. And we kind of are available to take care of the kid physically, but also have other demands on us. I think it's forced us to be much more direct in our communication. Like yesterday, I was like, how much time do you need to write this lab report? And when do you want to be doing it? And it may be that both of us are like, I want to be doing it in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we both can't do it in the morning. So someone's going to have to compromise. Like someone's going to have to take the morning, And, there's always a little bit of tension around that and like annoyance or anger, or if we snap at each other. And I think this is the other thing that having a kid has made me just have to accept. I'm like, okay, it's going to pass. We'll feel better. And but I'm not going to try to troubleshoot the tension between us right now. Like, I'm not going to be like, let's talk this out. Like, it's fine. We're a little bit annoyed at each other. Within a couple of hours, we will have forgotten it.
Right.
Anyway, that's a little bit off topic.
So now we're at what? Midday?
Now we're at midday. We kind of are tag teaming. I'm writing. He's working. And then around 5 is the final stretch to bedtime. So Finn goes to sleep at 6:45. And between 5 and 6:45, he is quite fussy.
The witching hour.
He'll take a nap somewhere in there, and he'll take a bottle somewhere in there.
So this day that you're telling me is all you writing. Is there other money job stuff that you're doing in the middle of that?
So this past week, I got edits from my agent back on my novel. So I took off from my day job to work on the novel, which is why it was only writing. Typically, I'm also juggling my job doing curriculum work for a test prep company, which is from home for the most part. So those are just which is wonderful. Like the flexibility is amazing. So those are just hours that I find where I can to put those in the afternoons. Yeah. Because I feel like my creative writing brain is best in the mornings.
Yeah. And you have childcare sometimes in the afternoons.
Yes, exactly.
Too.
So
yeah.
See, this is not a typical day in life because also our babysitter was out of town this week.
Yeah.
But she is also typically around she comes for a few hours every day.
Yeah.
And that really helps.
And you use the time that she's there for your test prep stuff or writing, or totally
Both.
varies?
Just
whatever
totally
you need to give the
varies.
most laser focus to.
Yeah. I have no real routine in that way. And I wonder if it would be better if I did. I don't know. But I don't
know. I feel like you are very good at keeping those things moving. I mean, do you feel satisfied? Do you feel like you're doing good work?
Yeah, it does feel like I'm constantly triaging. Like, what do I need to get done right now? And so it does feel like I feel very scattered, and I feel like every day life is like, and so maybe more of a routine wouldn't feel like that. But then part of me thinks this is like what people feel like when they have a new baby and they also are doing other stuff, or maybe just what they feel like when they have a new baby, regardless of what else they're doing.
Right.
I mean, I have a friend who has a baby Finn's age, and she's not back at work. And she describes feeling this exact same way. Yeah. Just taking care of her son every day.
Yeah.
So
I had a friend that described, she was the primary caregiver for their kid when their child was around the same age. And she said, I don't parent, I cope. Because it's all kid all the time. So then there's not the handoff of now I have this other priority and then I can come back and be present. It's just constantly the kid, and it's constantly, how do I keep this child alive and presumably becoming a better person day by day by day.
It's so interesting, and it sounds so much harder to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that term primary caregiver, because Finn does not have that. Finn has 3 caregivers, me, my husband, and Rachel, who watches him about 18 hours a week.
You don't feel like you or your husband are the primary caregivers?
I mean, maybe we both are, but not one more than the other. No, I really don't.
Wow.
Because I work and write. He works and goes to school. And then we pass Finn back and forth between ourselves and Rachel. It feels pretty even to me. I wonder if he'd say the same thing.
Yeah. That's interesting. I have another friend who is she and her husband are very explicit about making things very equal. But outside of that, I've never known a couple with equity in parenting at this early age.
Interesting.
I mean, I think a lot of it in my case, for example, comes from the 2 big disparate things in my lives, which are breastfeeding and travel. So there's gross inequity in both places, depending on what is happening. Am I home breastfeeding or am I on the road traveling?
I was going to say, because those 2 things cut in opposite directions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because you're the one traveling.
And I'm the one breastfeeding.
But you're the one breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting that you have found that.
Well,
when you're traveling. So what happens then? So we travel together.
We travel together.
Workshops for the Moth on the road and we'll be gone 1 or 2 nights.
Yeah. A month or so.
Yeah.
And Lucas is all it's him, when I'm gone. His mom, I think last month, his mom came and stayed to help out, which was great. It's Finn has 2 grandmothers who love to come to New York and help with childcare when they can. But I will say, when I was breastfeeding, I breastfed until he was a little over 4 months. And I would not have said it was equal. I mean, it just can't tethered to the baby.
Right. Or when you're out, you're managing a pump and you're thinking about the sanitation of milk and where do I freeze it and how do I find a freezer and what's the cooler and I have to do the extra bag and wash the parts and the whatever. Yeah.
All of life is about your breasts. It's I felt like even when I was doing other stuff, it was like, when am I going to have to pump next?
Right.
How like it was just on the back of my mind all the time.
What stranger am I going to have to discuss my breasts and my biology with at this point? So do you remember a very early workshop, probably the first workshop you did after Finn? We taught a workshop and it was all day. And so we both nursing our babies we had to go to a mother's room, and a mother's room for the unindoctrinated is a private room that's required in most workplaces. You're supposed to have a clean sanitary area to pump. And I think it's required that there's a refrigerator or something. So we got the key, but I just say to our client, who was a young dude, two of the four people you're bringing into this room will need this mother's room at lunch. And he gave us the key. It was this really funky space. It was very nice. They had LaCroix water in there, LaCroix, however you say it, which we loved. And then when we left, we went right downstairs and dropped it to the front desk of the place that they'd rented out. And then he sent me an email afterwards and said, "Did you drop the key to the birthing room?" And he did not understand the difference between, I'm sure he understood if he thought about it, he would. But the women's bodies are given such little thought that he thinks that birthing, that would be something on your lunch break that you would just be like, peace, I'm just going to go.
That was funny.
Make a baby and then come back and finish this workshop on storytelling and then head out the door.
I forgot about that.
But that happens all the time. And I think this is like a big thing that I've found as a working mother is that you have to keep that part of you out of the door. And I think a working mother, that's one thing, but like as a nursing mother, that's a whole other thing. Like your body, your biology, your vulnerability are a part of the conversation.
Okay. So let's talk about your day in the life.
So my day in the life, so there's obviously two start days in the life. There's days when I'm home and days when I'm not. And a day that I'm home, by not home, I mean traveling. So on a day that I'm home, generally, I have two kids. I have Fritzy, who's 3.5, and Iris, who's almost 1. Generally, Iris is the one that wakes us up, and that happens anywhere from, I would say, 5:45 to 6:30. And I'll go in, my husband and I very specifically, and we had to develop this because otherwise it wasn't happening, alternate who wakes up with her. But it's either me going into her nursery and nursing her, or my husband going in, changing her diaper, and then bringing her into the bedroom and me nursing her. So I'm still sort of up, and then he takes her afterwards and takes her downstairs on his days, or I, get her from the nursery and take her downstairs. And then probably around like 6:45, 7, our son gets up and he comes downstairs, and whoever's down there feeds them breakfast. And then there starts the like sort of aggressive push to get my son to school, which starts at 8. So there's oftentimes a negotiation around getting him dressed. There's been a lot about, he likes to wear up pants, not down pants. That's shorts instead of pants, up sleeves. So we really had to push him into winter clothes. Coats and hats are a big battle. But the one thing that's getting him to school is he has a good friend, Frankie, who's at school. So we have to say, like, Frankie's really waiting for you at school. What's the toy that you want to show Frankie? This is all going to horribly backfire when Frankie's family moves back to Australia at Christmas, which her son doesn't know. And the only solution we have right now is that we're getting Frankie's beta fish, and we're probably going to name it Frankie, and we'll discuss this at a later time. So then I take Iris and Fritzy to school. It's like a 15-minute walk. And Jason, my husband, goes to the gym during that time. And then I drop Fritzy at school, walk Iris back, and put her down for her nap about 8. And she naps anywhere from 8:30. By the time she's down, it's like 8:30 or 8:45. And she'll nap till 10, anywhere from 10 to 11:30. So she can do like a big chunk. So I sit down at my desk about 9. My husband gets home maybe 9:30, 10, and Iris is sleeping at that point. So when I sit at my desk, technically the Moth, I work from home for the Moth. Moth hours are 10 to 6. So I always try to be completely available for Moth during those hours. That's some of the parameters I set. They give me total freedom, except for that I schedule calls. I constantly am phone calls for the Moth, but I try to schedule them in that window and operate as though I'm in the office at that time.
This is interesting to me because you also work a lot of hours for the Moth outside of that window.
I do.
So that's just extra. That's like overtime.
Well, when I'm home. But here's the little exchanges I do. So I'm constantly on a math exchange of all of this. Like I'm constantly like, I need for better or for worse, I'm always like, am I doing right by the Moth? And I think there's bigger things to unpack there. There's obviously my sense of responsibility and duty. There's my great love of the Moth. It's been an organization that has affected every good thing in my life. Like, it's made me a better artist. It makes me a better professional. It's introduced me to a community of people. It's given me opportunities I would never, I mean, I could go on and on and on. But it is also the job that keeps the roof on our head and the health insurance for my entire family. So I feel tremendous pressure to exceed and also I'm an achiever. I like it. I have quantifiable success at the Moth a lot.
Right.
And that feels nice to Kate Tellers.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. So the hours between 9 and 10, though, sometimes I'll either try to get a jump start in the day so that I have wiggle room during the day between 9 and 10, or I will use that time to write. I'll use that time to respond to emails. I'll use that time to for me time before I make the switch. Once 10 o'clock starts, I'm pretty full throttle Moth, unless I've made other exceptions, like way outside of the hours. And then I really like it. Like when Iris gets up, I'll take a walk with her and maybe we'll go to the grocery store and, I can be outside with her. I actually get a lot of thinking done when I walk with her. It just focuses my brain. It like settles my heart. I don't have time at this point in my life. I don't make time to work out. So these walks are like the thing that gets my body moving, which one of the reasons that we have Jason's gym built so much into our day is that we both recognize the correlation between physical activity and sort of mental health.
Yeah.
So I try to multitask mine and do it while I'm carrying or wearing a child, pushing or wearing a child. So sometimes I'll take time off for that with her, or sometimes I'll take a half hour, an hour in the middle of the day to write if I've built in that time, or I'll have, instead of taking a lunch hour, I'll take a writing hour. And then around 5 is Iris's witching hour. So if I'm home, I will oftentimes, and Jason makes dinner for the whole family, I'll take her upstairs to my office and let her like play on the floor. And then I'll do stuff like write an invoice or do something
like
that
the mindless things.
Do something that I can jump in and out of and not lose efficiency. So if she puts a toy in her mouth, I can grab the toy and still go back to it. So I don't schedule calls, for example, during that time.
Right.
And then at 6, we sit both kids down to dinner. And the 4 of us sit together, and then Jason puts Fritzy to bed and I put Iris to bed. And then when they're both in bed, then Jason and I sit down and we have dinner. And sometimes that's like the first time we've had an uninterrupted conversation all day, even though we've been in the same home for the whole day. And then after that, sometimes I'll go upstairs and work more, particularly if I've been slow, if I've taken a longer walk with Iris, or if I've taken, sometimes those afternoon blocks are helpful for my brain. Sometimes I'll write, but oftentimes I'm totally brain dead. So I'll just fold laundry and watch television. One night a week at 7 o'clock. So on Wednesday nights, you and I and our third friend, Steven, have an online, like a video chat writing group, which has been, I think, so excellent for keeping us responsible. We met in another writing group that was a beautiful writing group full of many eclectic voices.
Writing group now is a great example of like solutions you come up with once you're a parent.
100%.
That are like, oh, this is great. Like we wouldn't have done that before. We weren't doing that before.
No.
Like we had an in-person writing group, which was amazing, but it was twice as long. And then there was commuting to get there, which made it like,
and we would all order dinner together. I would be at the end. People would socialize. I'd be falling asleep at the table.
You did fall asleep at the table.
Like all the time. Pregnant, postpartum, like all the time falling asleep at the table. Yeah. So I'm not home every night. I actually do shows in New York. And that happens. And like the big thing for me, and like if I'm hosting the Moth, I have to be at the show during bedtime, which I do not like. My dream is that I can leave my house after bedtime, but I live in Bushwick, so that often doesn't happen.
And in the afternoons, is Jason watching the kids, or you have childcare as well?
And that's Jason's responsibility right now. Jason is a photographer. So this typically has not happened in the way we've just shifted childcare. But if he were to have a job, we would bring someone else in. Otherwise, he does like photo editing during the day, and then is able to sort of have that flexibility. And sometimes he'll take, like he used to with Fritz, and sometimes with Iris, he'll take her on a photo walk, and he'll just take the camera and push her and take pictures. And he had a show last year of stuff he shot while walking with Fritzy. And it's really beautiful. It's all like stuff in Bushwick. And it was all work that he made with like a little kid in a stroller.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny hearing both of us talk about our day. It's reminding me of before I was mom, when I saw my sister had left. My sister has 2 kids. They're basically your children's ages.
Mhm.
And I saw my sister had left for the babysitter, like a schedule for the day.
Mhm.
And I just remember looking at it and being like, this is so detailed.
Yeah.
Like down to the half hour or
Yeah.
whatever. And we both just did that. Like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
like there's so much back and forth. It's all timed. So like, it's not like big chunks of time. Like I used to think of my time in bigger chunks.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like 20-minute increments.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I hear with both of ours, and particularly with mine, is that there's not exactly that. There's no big block for anything. It's the switching back and forth.
So much switching.
It's the switching. Also, like, I'm going to have full brain here. So this is when I need to do this work. This is where I can do like the stuff where I'm brain dead. This is where I can, and it all has to be sort of like fit in there.
Yeah. The full brain, half brain Tetris thing is
Freaking
so
nuts.
real.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like once I figured it out, I'm like, oh,
I haven't figured, I mean, I
can
know
do
it,
the
but
half
yeah.
brain things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying I figured it out, but like once
you noticed it.
Once I noticed it and had to start kind of allocating.
Yeah.
Once I noticed it and stopped trying to do the full brain things when it was impossible.
Yeah.
Because that's so frustrating and you just feel bad at everything.
Yes. Except for, I think I have to be truly honest, like my relationship with my creativity and my parenting or pregnancy also was, I found that it was often the excuse that I needed to not, when you're creating something and you're about to get good and you have that tension, that was my excuse. And I think I've always had a busy schedule that's given me excuses. I'm like, my weakness, as we've said, is like finishing. So I always have like creative stuff going on, but like my submitting level per what I'm creating is very low.
Yeah, you said you will get something 90%.
I get something 90%, and then I'm like, oh, it needs one
it.
more revision, or I just have to really write that submission letter, or I have to write back to that person about this show or something, and then I like sort of leave it there. And I think getting pregnant and then having a kid and then pregnant another kid gives me that, like, I don't have to push myself into that uncomfortable creative space tonight. This is a very busy and exhausting time of my life right now. But then it gives me that excuse. And I should say the other thing that has become definitely more important to me since having a kid, and I think it's just the state of the world, is like my role as like an activist. And so I've been going to like postcard writing parties, or doing a lot of reading or writing to people, or, planning to march, or, attending events. That type of stuff takes up time and a different type of brain. And also, like, there's the emotional labor of all of that, of parenting, of creating, of like fighting, of maintaining your relationship.
Yeah, it all takes energy.
Yeah.
Coming up next.
And that's what, making art is, I think, is like on a daily basis, almost trying to rediscover something you once knew and then find a way to report it back to the world. And kids don't have that struggle.
Next episode, filmmaker Greg Latchow.
Get creative. Go to imstillherepodcast.com to find links where you can rate, review, and subscribe.
I'm still here.